4 years ago, I was 19 years old with no money, no clients, and absolutely no idea what I was going to do with my life. Flash forward a couple of years, I'm 23, I've made over $3 million online, and I've built 2 7-figure companies, Paid House Media, my marketing agency, and The Advertising Co., my coaching company. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is George Clements, and what you might not know about me is I've actually filmed everything throughout this journey. So I used to have an old YouTube channel that I unfortunately deleted when I started this one, which was a mistake, but here we are. And I actually documented the journey going from pretty much nothing at 19 to scaling my agency all the way to the point where I was around 22. And today I want to show you guys some of that footage and explain my journey. I know I mostly post very tactical stuff on this channel, and I want to allow you guys to understand and get to know me a little bit better and see my journey because, you know, we didn't start here. We haven't always been here. I made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I was probably in a situation similar or hell, even worse than yours. Whether you're just getting started or you're already crushing it, hopefully this video can be valuable to you and kind of allow you to see how I've been able to scale my companies. So this video isn't to brag or flex by any means. It's ideally just to help you avoid making the same mistakes as I did. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, before we get started, let's go to the very, very beginning. I am an only child, and I think that is what led me to getting into the online business space. I was chronically online. I didn't have, you know, a brother or sister go play with, right? So I was pretty much sitting on YouTube for a good few hours of the day, every single day. Naturally, as being a young man, the YouTube algorithm persuaded me and took me in a certain direction, and I started seeing the drop shipping videos, the make money online videos. I think one creator, Jordan Welch, specifically stands out to me, as well as obviously Iman Gadzi and, you know, the creators of that generation, right? And I kind of fell into watching all of those videos, and I became obsessed specifically with drop shipping, to the point where I actually started my first ever drop shipping store, surprise, surprise, when I was aged 17. And I spent like $40 on ads for that store and got to like 2 sales or something like that, and then immediately switched them off because they didn't go very well. I then started a second store, I think 6 or so months later, and this one actually scaled to around $100 a day of ad spend or something like that, which felt absolutely insane to me. But again, it lasted all of 2 or 3 months, and I then ended up switching that one off as well because I wasn't profitable on the ads. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just in completely over my head, and I think a big part of me still didn't believe that this whole online business thing was actually possible. I distinctly remember sitting down and telling my parents, like, hey, I don't think I'm actually cut out for this entrepreneurship thing, which is really ironic because it's now what I do full time now. So anyway, I ended up going off to university and pretty much just forgetting about the entrepreneurship thing and partied a whole lot, as one does at university, pretty much for the entirety of the first year. And then kind of the summer between year 1 and year 2, this was when I got a retail job. Okay, so I got like a regular kind of 9 to 5, you could call it, here in the UK. And just remember so vividly hating it. Like, I was just like, I have to get out of here. And, you know, the degree I was studying, I studied English and literature and philosophy, which I'm very proud to have studied, and really enjoyed the degree, learned a lot of cool stuff. But look, it didn't have a very concrete career destination at the end of it. And I didn't particularly fancy becoming an English teacher. So I was like, right, we've got to lock in here. So anyway, was doing this job, absolutely hated it. Remember running up on my lunch breaks to go get outside, and I would just binge through YouTube, just trying to find an answer, searching for opportunities to make money online. I knew drop shipping wasn't going to be my thing. It just didn't feel sustainable. I didn't have the money to, you know, inject into ads. And, you know, that's a big problem with that business model for beginners. And so I wanted to find something that I could just throw myself at again and again and again using my time, because that's something that I had in abundance. And eventually I stumbled across a video from a very small creator. I think he had about 2,000 or 3,000 subscribers on YouTube at the time. And he was talking about SMMA. He was talking about the agency business model. And something about him really resonated with me. And I liked the way he was explaining concepts. He seemed like a really smart guy. And fundamentally as well, you know, he had a lot less followers than everyone else. I knew if I went with one of the big creators and bought one of their courses, some guys who had, you know, hundreds of thousands or millions of followers at the time, I knew that I would just be a number. But with this guy, I just felt like, hey, I'm getting in early, you know, I'm going to be able to get a lot of personal attention. And that's what ended up happening. I paid this guy all of my money, my student draft, like overdraft. I was deep in debt at this point, student debt, and I went even further into debt to just buy this program. But it was just one of those moments that we will have in life, you know, a YOLO moment where we're like, right, let's just figure it out as we go. And so invested in that mentorship. That guy taught me a lot of what I know now and got me started. And so pretty much that's where more or less this footage in this video starts to pick up from. I had gotten my first few clients at this point, and about 6 months to a year into my journey, I basically started this YouTube channel, which you're about to see footage from here today. So the footage starts in 2023. And as I said, at this point, I had gotten a few clients. The way I was getting my clients at this point was through Twitter. So I started on Facebook, trying to post content on Facebook, but I was just getting absolutely nothing. And so I ended up making the pivot to Twitter for some reason. I don't know why, but it was an amazing decision. And I just kind of fell into this like rabbit hole of micro niche creators on Twitter who were just crushing it. I was early to this, I have to say. I mean, not crazy early, like that, you know, I was still maybe 1 or 2 years after a few people had started to make money on Twitter, but I still felt like I was early. Like I was doing this giveaway strategy that was crushing it, and I was able to get my first few clients from that. And something did never click for me about cold outreach. I remember I started countless different cold email campaigns and cold DM campaigns and all these other sort of cold outbound strategies, but it just wasn't for me. Maybe it was a lack of discipline, or maybe I just knew that if I posted content and showed my expertise, I knew that I would attract people who would respect me and would want to work with me and would want to pay my prices. You know, I never did the whole free work thing. I was pretty much charging $1,000 a month out the gate and then scaled up the prices from there. So yeah, as I said, so here we are, 2023. I think this is first video is around like, I want to say early like summer 2023, because I'd come back from university at this point. This video is situated in my parents' house. So it was definitely summer. I believe I just hit my first 10K month, or like, yeah, 10K 4-week period. It wasn't technically a 10K month. I, immediately thought I had to become an influencer, of course. So I just whipped out the camera and started filming.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be hard, but you can do it. Anyone with a bit of common sense and genuine discipline and consistency and a genuine drive to change their identity into someone who can achieve success in business can do this business model. So in this video, I'm going to break down my 1 year of trying SMMA. Next month is the 1 year anniversary of me launching my advertising agency, ClickSpring, and I thought it would be fun to jump on this trend and talk to you guys about the experiences and the lessons that I've learned along the way. My name's George. I run an agency doing between 20 and 30K a month right now, and I want to make these videos to document my journey to 100K a month and help as many agency owners and business owners as I can along the way. So I've got a list of points with me right here, and I'm going to break down each lesson that I've learned from running an agency for nearly 1 year now. So the first point is one that you've probably heard before, and it's probably one that you're not going to be excited to hear, and it's that SMMA is hard work. And I don't just say that because everyone says business is hard. No one expects business to be easy. That's self-explanatory. But I say that because when you start an SMMA, the business is you. You are the product. With an e-commerce store, with a software company, there is an exterior thing. There is an exterior product which can be scaled, and it doesn't involve the owner's time. It doesn't involve anyone's time. But when you first start a social media marketing agency, you are the product. It's your time and it's your energy. Your time and energy are the inputs into the business. And you have to work consistently to be able to get any kind of output. And it's tough, and there's a lot of skills that you have to master when it comes to SMMA. So your time, your energy are going towards mastering a bunch of different skills. Marketing, sales, service delivery, operations, finance, and eventually managing teams, hiring, firing, a bunch of stuff, right? And that's a pro and a con. It's a pro because SMMA teaches you everything you need to know to succeed in business. But it's a con because when you first start, there's going to be a lot of stuff that you suck at, and a lot of stuff that you find hard, and a lot of stuff that doesn't come naturally to you. And you've kind of got to master each stage in a way. Now, there are going to be some things in business that you just don't want to do, and that's okay. You can hire people to do those things for you because they're probably going to be better at them than you are. But when you first start an SMMA, from 0 to 10K a month, the business is you. You can't get away from doing the things that you don't want to do because you don't have the money to hire anyone, you don't know who to hire, and you don't know how to hire. So you really need to do everything. You need to get clients, you need to sell those clients, you need to deliver really good services for those clients so they actually stay and give you case studies. And then you need to make sure that the day-to-day in the business is running smoothly and you're not wasting time here, there, and everywhere. And that really requires a lot of mastery of yourself, which is the second lesson I'm going to give you about, which I've learned in my first year. It's that SMMA, probably more than any other business model, requires focus and sacrifice. Why? Because you are the service, you are the product, you are the business. And so if you're operating at a subpar level, the business will operate at a subpar level. It's as simple as that. You are the input, and bad input equals bad output. And so what that means is that you have to have mastery over yourself, complete mastery. You have to, sacrifice a lot of things that you probably love doing. You have to sacrifice the things that are going to lead to a lower quality input. So you have to sacrifice probably video games, you have to sacrifice drinking, you have to sacrifice partying, you have to sacrifice a lot of stuff that you probably want to do. And a lot of stuff that you probably started the business so that you can do and kind of justify it, right? A lot of people just want to party and they just want to, go and travel and go on holiday and not actually work. But they realize like they can't sustain that without cash flow. So that's why they start a business. But you actually have to give all of that up when you start the business because you are the input. So if you're distracted, if you're intoxicated, that's going to be a bad input. And so you're going to get a bad output. What does a bad output mean? It means, no leads coming in because your marketing is terrible. It means, no sales coming in because you're not functioning, well on the sales call. It's going to mean, probably poor service delivery because you're not focused when you're delivering for clients. It's just going to be a mess, okay? So SMMA requires your focus and it requires sacrifice because you are the business. It's not just mastery of your mindset because that's a whole nother topic which I'd love to spend a few videos talking about. It's mastery over both your body and your mind.
And in this video, I just shared basically the lessons that I had learned up to this point. And again, I kept saying the same thing that I say to this day, which is you should focus on inbound, because if you focus on inbound, if you focus on content, if you focus on ads, if you focus on mechanisms which bring the client to you, those things are going to compound over time and you're going to be able to truly benefit from that. So now for context, my agency at this point was called ClickSpring. Not a great name, but just the first name that came to my head, right? And we were doing Google ads for e-commerce brands. Now, this is just a niche my mentor put me onto, and I'm very glad he did, because he said something back then which I didn't really appreciate, which was that Facebook ads is a bit of a pain in the ass because you've got to faff around with creative and you've got to make images and videos and all this stuff, which we know. And it is a bit of a faff. Whereas with Google ads, there's not really much of a creative element and you're still able to get clients results. Honestly, Google ads is an amazing service delivery mechanism. I'm not going to lie. And so I then made a video kind of showing how I was getting my clients results at the time and basically breaking down the ad accounts.
Oh, welcome into my Mac. Very glad to have you here. This is Google Ads. This is pretty much where me and my team live. We run Google and YouTube ads for brands. That's all in one ads manager. So I get to spend lots of time in this extremely fun looking website here. Okay. Now, there are two campaigns that you can see before you, okay, for this client. This is obviously a client account, all right, that we're inside of right now. And you can see that in the last 30 days, overall for the client, we spent just shy of 2K and bought back over $15.5 thousand for them, okay? And, with these two campaigns here, we did 733 in spend and bought back over $10,000, okay? So that's a pretty healthy ROAS. Needless to say, the client is quite happy, okay? Now, the reason you can only see two campaigns here is because we have actually significantly cut down the amount of campaigns in the account. And that is an example of ESAD, my friend, okay? So initially we started with 4 or 5 campaigns, realized that those campaigns were truly not needed to get the best results, and we're actually probably detracting from getting the best results, because when it comes to Google ads, the minimal viable product is what does the best, okay? Because Google is a greedy thing, it needs all the data it can get in the campaigns and all the search terms it can get. So the fewer the better, especially with a client that's only looking to, spend $2,000 or so in a month. Now, full transparency, why am I looking from the 7th of May to the 7th of June? It's because we have really significantly scaled this client now, okay? And so we're spending around, about $5,000 in a month, so $310 a day. And so the ROAS has dropped a little bit. It's around about 6x at the moment. But of course, it's simply part of the process. You can't stay at a 15x ROAS the whole time. And if you do, you're not running ads correctly. You have to scale, you have to sacrifice ROAS for scale, and that's how you grow, and that's how you make more revenue, and basically get a bigger brand, right? So I'll break down exactly the account structure here. Now, full transparency, I'm not going to really dive down into each of these campaigns because there is pretty sensitive information here. We don't want to give away, this client, how much they're spending, how much they're making, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, but I will break down this account structure, which you can see before you, and why you should recreate something similar if you run Google ads for your clients. Okay, now, if you're a Facebook ads veteran, you're probably wondering why are there not like 20 campaigns here with top of funnel and remarketing and all this kind of stuff. With Google, as I mentioned, it's very, very different. You really want to just simple scales, right? You really just want to make sure that you have the fundamentals and just build upon those fundamentals, okay? So you can see here we have 2 campaigns. We have a Performance Max campaign and a branded search campaign, all right? Performance Max is a fantastic campaign type. Now, If you are running Google Ads for local businesses, then this is going to look a little bit different for you. You're very much going to be search based. So you're probably going to have a branded search campaign as well. If the brand that you're working for, the chiropractor or the lawyer or whatever, if they're well known, then you're still going to run a branded search campaign. But instead of having a Performance Max campaign, which to be honest doesn't really work too well for lead gen, it's quite advanced if you want it to get it to work for lead gen. Honestly, you're probably better off just with a normal search campaign or a YouTube campaign if you want to get a little bit exciting. So that's probably going to be your main top of funnel campaign type, okay? And so this is the top of funnel campaign for us. It's Performance Max, right? And this is really all you need for getting new customers, okay? Because Performance Max basically involves all of Google's different channels: search, shopping, YouTube, display, the whole lot. And essentially what it does is it turns a stranger into a paying customer. So it will find the stranger on YouTube or display, which are those little images that follow you around on websites like Forbes and BuzzFeed. And then it will basically remarket to that customer. So they'll see the ads again and again and again. And they're like, oh, okay, maybe I should search this brand up and search this product up. So they search it up on Google search, and then they're seeing the shopping ads and the search ads, and then they click on those ads and then they purchase, and now they are a customer. Okay, and Performance Max has then done its job.
I also made videos showing my Twitter strategy at the time, so how I was booking 2 to 3 calls a day, sharing that with people just because I felt like it was valuable and others could benefit from it. And I constantly got messages from people being like really impressed with the Twitter strategy that I was running at the time, because they were doing cold email or whatever it was, and it was just a breath of fresh air for them.
People, I'm very glad you're here. In this video, I'm going to show you my exact marketing funnel that I'm using to book 2 to 3 calls per day for my agency, and how I'm planning to book somewhere in the realm of 5 calls a day in the next few weeks. And that's going to help me scale to 30K a month. So welcome back to Agency Ascension. This is episode 2 of my series. My name's George, by the way. I run a marketing agency called ClickSpring that helps e-commerce businesses scale up with ads. And I've been able to get that to 20K a month in the last year, but I've been on a bit of a hamster wheel in the last few weeks. So I thought I'd document my journey to, 100K a month is the ultimate goal. But right now, the next 3-month goal is to hit $30,000 per month with my agency. And I'm basically just going to show you exactly how I plan to do it. As I mentioned in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how I'm leveraging inbound and outbound to book a bunch of sales calls for my business. And you're going to learn how you can do the same as well. All right, so let's get into it.
And my whole entire goal here at this stage was to hit 30K a month. That number sounded insane to me, just like huge, such a big number. Little did I know, less than 2 years later, we would be, hitting almost 10x that in a single month. But nonetheless, I made this like series, I think, which was all about scaling to 30K a month, which is really funny.
Welcome to Agency Ascension episode 3. In this video, I'm going to break down what I've been up to the last few weeks, how the agency is growing, and how we're tracking on our goal to hitting $30,000 per month in Q4. All right, so my name's George. I run a marketing agency called ClickSpring. We do multi-6 figures a year, and I'm documenting my journey to 7 figures and beyond. And I'm trying to help as many entrepreneurs as I can along the way. All right, so this is going to be a quick one, but I'm going to break down what we've been up to and how we're progressing at the moment. So last week, I actually went on holiday, which is incredibly weird for me because I haven't taken a week off since I started the agency 1 year ago. Started in about early August, late July in 2022. So it was weird. And I literally didn't do any work, completely put my laptop down and just enjoyed life for a week, which was very nice. And I'm hoping to do a lot more of that now that the business is starting to become its own entity, aside from me. Because when you first start, you ain't taking a holiday. You're not taking a holiday. Get that out of your head. Like, you are the business when you first start an agency, because it's your skills, it's your ability to market, it's everything is to do with you. So yeah, you have to basically just work and work to get it off the ground. But then after a year, you've got team, you've got systems, you've got processes, and you can start to remove yourself from the business. So yeah, it's nice. I'm hoping definitely next summer I'm going to be way more hands-off with a business. I'm hoping it will be doing 100K a month by that point. And we've got significant amounts of team, for each of the departments, outreach, sales, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but nonetheless, it was a nice holiday. And yeah, I learned a lot. I actually kind of like put the money to work for once, because I basically just haven't taken any money out of the business since I started. And yeah, was able to go to a really nice 5-star hotel, which is really cool, considering a year ago, last summer I was flat broke. So yeah, it was nice. And I just wanted to kind of break down my thoughts about it, because something that Joel Kaplan talks about, who's a big guy in the agency space, is the vacation test. So you basically know when your business is automated sufficiently when you can fully take a week off, a vacation, right? And I nonetheless decided to fully take a vacation, fully take a week off, more or less, and I was actually okay. So I have, full transparency, I have 2 team members working for me at the moment. I have 2 account managers, but I don't have anything like an operations manager. I don't have a chief marketing officer. I don't have anyone executive in my company. It's just me. So I'm pretty much the client lead for every single client. So it was interesting that I was able to take that week off. But I honestly think that you can. Like, I honestly think that you know, once you get to above 10K a month, once you even just get 1 team member, that allows you to be able to kind of take a break now and then. And it's really important. And, you know, something I've learned in entrepreneurship is you need to kind of go through 3 phases. You go through planning, you then execute or deliver on that plan. So you plan to hit 10K a month, 20K a month, 100K a month. You execute on it, so you go like all in, you put everything into it, and then you relax, you rest, you recover. It's very similar to what an athlete would do. They would prepare for a competition, they'd set their sights on a gold medal or whatever, they'd execute, and then they'd rest for a week or so, and then set their sights on something new. So that's exactly what I did. I mean, I had been trying to get to 28K a month since I hit 10K a month in about April, and then I was trying to get to 20K a month, and I only hit it in May, June, sometime like that. So that was like 2-3 months of like real hard grind. And yeah, was able to hit it. So I thought I'd actually, take a week off and relax, and it was worth it. So I definitely recommend it. Now, that's the first thing. The second thing is we were able to sign a new client as well. So we're doing 22K a month right now in revenue, which is great. Also looking to hire more team. So we are definitely making progress. Inbound is paying off absolute dividends for me at the moment. I cannot recommend inbound enough. I recently, circa a few weeks ago, hit 10K on Twitter, like officially. We're at 10.3K now, something like that. And just the authority boost of hitting like 5 figures has generated like a bunch of leads for me. It's weird. So yeah.
And I was also just extremely passionate about SMMA and agency as a business model. I really vividly remember this. I was just so grateful for the business model. I really liked it. I felt it was the best thing to do for beginners because it had worked for me. And, I was really, its biggest champion, I guess.
In this video, I'm going to break down definitively why marketing agencies are the best business model for beginners to start with. Now, I'm only doing this because there are so many business models out there that so many gurus are pushing, probably trying to sell their own course. I have no course to sell. I'm just very, very passionate about agencies, and I want to help as many people as I can start one, really, if it is their first business model, because I truly, truly think it is the best. And I'm going to break down exactly why in this video. Now, my name's George. I own an agency called ClickSpring. We help e-commerce businesses scale up with ads, and we're doing multi-6 figures right now. I'm making these videos to document my journey to 7 figures and, yeah, help as many people as I can along the way. Now, there's 4 main areas to why I believe marketing agencies are the best for beginners. Firstly, low startup capital. Secondly, low risk. Thirdly, high profit margins. And fourth, skill development. Now, don't click off just yet, because I'm going to break down why these things are the case and how you can actually use these advantages to your own benefit. Because you've got to actually make sure that you're making the most of these advantages that this business model brings. So let's start with low startup capital. Now, no surprises here. You've probably heard this one before. Now, really the only investment an agency requires to get to 10K a month, to be honest with you, is your time. There's very, very little startup cost. And the reason is because there's minimal equipment or software required. I mean, really all you need to get started is a laptop or some kind of computer and some very, very basic software. I mean, what do you really need? You don't need a website. So don't let anyone tell you need a website, because you don't need a website to get started. I didn't have a website until I was doing I think 10K a month anyway, or somewhere near that. All you really need is some method of getting people to book a call with you. And that can be completely free. That can be organic channels like Twitter, which is where I get all my clients and got started. Or Facebook or LinkedIn or TikTok, posting content on free channels, or reaching out to people on those free channels, which again is completely free, or sending cold emails. Again, there are some costs associated with that, but you can do that for incredibly, incredibly cheap. So you need a laptop, you need a method of outreach, and then you need a way that people can actually book calls with you. So Calendly is a great example. Again, incredibly cost effective. I think there are even some plans that you can get away with without paying anything. Then you need some kind of a sales process and some way of collecting cash, right? So again, Stripe, completely free. They only just take fees when someone pays you. So you can literally collect payments from clients completely for free. And then once you get paying clients, then you can start to invest in things that do cost some money. So, you know, maybe some courses, learn about how to deliver a fantastic service, or some fancy things like a website, better equipment, etc., etc. But you can see it's really very, you know, low startup capital, right? So that's that done. No inventory or pre-launch purchases required. Again, very similar point, but for pretty much any other business model, you need to spend money in developing a product. So you need to spend money in R&D, research and development, or you need inventory or stock. So if you're trying to build a legit brand and not dropship, for example, you'd have to build up a load of inventory. And of course, all of this costs money, and it's a big risk because you have no idea whether it's actually going to succeed or not. As I mentioned, with a marketing agency, your only pre-launch necessity is your time. So there's none of that, and it's incredibly low risk, which is again another thing, but also incredibly cheap for beginners to get started. And then finally, home-based operations. You don't need an office, right? You don't need fancy equipment. You need literally, as I mentioned, a laptop and somewhere to work. That could literally be in your bedroom. That could be anywhere you want. If you're studying, if you're a student, it can be in your student halls, right? That's how I got started. I started my agency in my second year of university here in England, and literally built my business in the library. I say student halls, but literally I built my business to 10k a month in the library of Exeter University, which is quite funny. There you go. Simple. If you're running a software company, if you're running, trying to start a SaaS or all of these things, I guess you could do that from home. But if you really want to build like fantastic culture and work closely with your software developers, I think an office comes in handy. But that's just, by the wayside. So there you go. Low startup capital. Pretty simple.
And I also talked a lot about mindset at this stage. You know, I was obsessed with mindset. I made a reel about this on Instagram the other day, but I feel like I don't think or talk about mindset anymore. Maybe you can relate as a business owner, but like, I feel like once you get past a certain stage, working just becomes a habit, and almost success becomes a habit to a certain extent. And you kind of rest back on your laurels and you feel like you don't have to work super hard with that mindset stuff anymore. And maybe that's wrong, you know, maybe that's wrong. I need to kind of meditate on that. But yeah, nonetheless, I was obsessed with mindset and responsibility and, you know, trial by fire and all this stuff back then. So I probably talked about that quite a lot too.
In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the exact morning routine that I used to scale my agency to 30k a month while studying full-time at university. It's fair to say that productivity is pretty important to me, so I've made sure to cultivate the most optimal morning routine I possibly can in order to get the most productivity in my life. My name's George. I run an agency called ClickSpring that does multi-six figures right now, and I'm making these videos to document my journey to 7 figures and help as many people as I can along the way. Now, I'm not going to make this one too long. I just really want to break down some of the misconceptions and kind of common mistakes people make with morning routines. I've got a list of points with me here, and I'm going to jump straight into the first one, which is remembering the aim of your morning routine, or any routine in general. If you are someone who runs a business, someone who is studying, someone who is passionate about their work, it's important to have a morning routine so that you can best complete that work. If you kind of roll out of bed and just fling yourself downstairs, you're probably not going to have the most productive day. And so we must remember that the aim of the morning routine is to get yourself into a productive state, okay? So that's really, really important. Whenever you're building any kind of a routine or really doing anything in general, it's so important to have that aim and that final outcome at the top of your mind. And kind of a subsequent point from that is, if the outcome, the final aim is to be productive, we want to avoid things that are going to take too long, because that's kind of the inverse of productivity in a way. Take too long, take too much mental energy, all of these things. So the kind of the 20-step routines that you might see trending on YouTube, and certainly ones that I've practiced in the past and my friends have practiced in the past, aren't actually that good, because if they take 2 hours to complete, that's kind of the antithesis of productivity. So it's really important to remember that the aim of building a morning routine is to increase productivity and decrease the opposite of productivity, which I guess is, you know, procrastination and other negative emotions. Okay, so yeah, that's really something that I kind of want to start with, is like, think about that. You know, when you're building your morning routine, basically you want to have kind of a minimal viable product. I've talked about this in other videos because this is a very common term in business. A minimal viable product is essentially the minimum thing, the smallest amount that you need to achieve the outcome. And that's really how I want you to go about constructing your morning routine, and that's how I built mine, because you want it to be as quick as possible so that it can be as productive as possible. Okay, so that's the first point. Remember the aim. Now, secondly is, once you have in mind that your whole goal here is to be extremely productive, you have to build out your steps, right? A morning routine consists of steps, of things that you're going to do. Now that can be as short as wake up and drink a coffee, which I know a lot of entrepreneurs, very successful people do and absolutely love. Or it can be as long as 20 steps, right? And genuinely in the past, I've had comedically long morning routines where I would get up, I would meditate, I would read a couple pages of something, of a book, I would journal, I would go for a walk, and the whole thing took probably nearly 2 hours, to be quite honest with you. When I kind of realized the first step, which is to maximize, the whole point is to maximize productivity, I realized that my morning routine was completely, stopping me from being productive because it was so long, right? So yeah, when you're building out your steps, you need to first kind of build a framework of non-negotiables, right? So as I mentioned, your morning routine consists of steps, and kind of when you're building it, you might not know where to start, which steps go where and which order do I put them in? Well, you've got to kind of build out your non-negotiables, right? And so for you, that might be drinking a coffee. You literally might not be able to function without drinking a coffee. Maybe that's a video for another day, because I personally don't love coffee for productivity. You might have to, of course, everyone has the same things, brush your teeth, potentially take a shower, all of these things. You need to slot those in the right place, and that's going to kind of start you off. That's going to be a good framework of non-negotiables that you need to complete every morning to actually have a good morning, to not feel disgusting, to not feel half asleep, right? So that's kind of where you start. And then the next thing that you do is you inject beneficial activities into those gaps in the routine that you've just started with, into those non-negotiables between them. And why I use the word inject is because you really want to only insert activities that are going to abide by the first principle, which is of course increasing productivity.
You'll also see me then move to my university dorm. So this was third year of university, now going into third year. So I had been at this, i.e. running the agency now successfully for about just over a year, because I started it going into my second year, and then this is my third year. It's just so funny looking back at this bedroom because it was just so cramped and tiny. I mean, it wasn't that bad, I guess, but the ego and the kind of hubris to kind of come onto camera and start like lecturing people about stuff, even though that was my background, I honestly find really funny. And I even did a day in the life video as well of, my kind of typical day in the life of a university student, which was pretty interesting. I kind of still looking back on it, don't really know how I did it. I did pretty well in my degree. I got a 2-1. Any Brits watching this will know that's like the second best from the best one, basically, which I think is pretty good going. At this point, I was probably making like 20-30 grand a month, which is pretty insane for a university kid. More or less pure profit as well, because I only had like 1 or 2 people working for me. And I would literally just get up, go onto campus. I like to work on campus, and that's a habit that's stuck with me even to this day. I really don't like working at home. I'm at home now to obviously film, but 90% of the time I'll try and go out to a cafe or co-working or something like that. It just wires my brain in the right way. Something about being around other people essentially just kind of lights your brain up and just allows you to get to a higher level of focus. But anyway, I would walk onto campus and, I would basically just book out this room in my university that was like bookable. It was meant for like, so it was meant for accessibility students. So people who were like, had like autism and things like that. And I would just book it out, even though I didn't have any of those things. But, I just wanted my own like private office. So ended up basically just booking that out in perpetuity. I think I even got my VA on it at a certain point because it was like first come, first serve.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new series that I'm going to call the SMMA Chronicles. In this series, I'm going to be walking you through basically exactly how I'm running my agency, and I'm actually just going to take you with me. It's going to kind of be like a vlog style series, different to what I've done before on this channel. That's what you're going to see in this video. I basically take you with me onto university campus because, as you know, as well as running my business, I'm still studying full time in my final year. and I'm going to walk you through exactly how I structure my day, the things that I get up to. Today is my content day, so I walk you through how I schedule all my tweets, and also behind the scenes of some of these YouTube videos that I'm filming as well for the channel. So my name is George. I run a marketing agency called ClickSpring. We're at multi-six figures, and I'm making these videos to document my journey to 7 figures and beyond and help as many people as I can along the way. So I hope you enjoy this. Please let me know if you do in the comments, and I will continue to make more. See ya. Okay, so it's absolutely fucking freezing right now. I'm on my way into university to start my day. As some of you might know, I'm studying full-time at university down in Exeter, which is kind of somewhat near London in the UK. I started my agency in my second year of university, and I got to 10K a month by the end of second year. And so I sort of had two options. I could have dropped out, of course, but I just sort of thought, why not finish what I started? So here I am in my final year, my third year, growing my agency. Hopefully we'll get it to 100K a month while studying this year, which would be quite a feat. But yeah, just heading in now. I do all my work for both my business and university on campus, as you'll see in a second, but yeah. Quite a nice walk in. Okay, and we're back. Welcome to the room where I do basically all my work. I basically live inside of this room. It's a room in my university's library that you can essentially book out. And I basically just book it out for weeks in advance. It's basically my office. And I'll show you, look, it's pretty cool. So we have a stand-up desk, which is pretty neat. And, you know, big desk space, another desk over there. It's a pretty small room overall, but gets the job done. And yeah, I'm basically just able to work here and kind of do everything that I need to do, which is pretty cool. So today is a Monday, and on Mondays, I essentially just sit down for 4 hours and write all of my content for Twitter and LinkedIn. And then I have lunch, then I have a lecture, and then I go home and film all my YouTube content. So yeah, basically I'm just going to show you the next few hours, kind of a little montage of me writing all my content. And this is basically the highest leverage activity that I can actually do, because all of the sales that basically come through my business come from either my Twitter account or my LinkedIn account. So yeah, writing good content is pretty important. So yeah, Mondays are a big day. All right, so I'll catch up with you in a sec. Okay, so I'm a fair amount of the way in. It's currently 10:15, and as you can see, I am on a quick break here, and I've just basically queued out a ton of content. Let me try and focus on my screen. Yeah, basically for like the next few days, these are all basically tweets that are going to get scheduled at a certain time, and yeah, this is basically what I do on a Monday. Just sit down and schedule all my tweets for the rest of the week. Got Brain FM playing, if you know, you know. And yeah, gonna keep going. All done with my work this morning. I am now off to lunch.
But yeah, and then I started making content very, very regularly at that point. Again, starting to talk about social media over cold email. And there was no like financial incentive to this. I wasn't selling a course. I genuinely just felt like that I wanted to talk about this stuff and share this stuff. And I still do it to this day. I love talking about agencies. I love talking about the marketing and the signing clients and all of that good stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I'm going to say something pretty controversial. I believe that cold email is finished. It's done. It's toast. And if you want to scale to 10K a month, 20K a month, or even up to 50K a month in the next few months, then you need to try something else. Something else that I'm going to lay out for you in this video. Now, I run an agency called ClickSpring. My name's George. We're doing multi-six figures right now, and I make these videos to document my journey to 7 figures and help as many people as I can along the way. And I'm going to jump into my computer right now and kind of give you the thesis behind this video. So let's go. Cold email is done. Do this instead. Now, the problem. Cold email is a red ocean. Just recently, I was on a video call, a Zoom call with one of my clients who runs a multi 7-figure ecom brand. And they were telling me that they get over 20 cold emails a day from brands offering everything from SEO to email marketing to Facebook ads to Google ads. That's 20 emails a day. Now, granted, that's a pretty well-respected brand,
But I would even make the argument that your local gym, your local realtor, your local dentist is getting hammered with cold emails these days. 3, 5, even 10 cold emails a day. And it doesn't really matter how good your subject line is. If this is what you're facing, you're at a disadvantage. Saturation is something that occurs in business. And we saw it in the dropshipping days when everyone was trying to sell fidget spinners from China. And now we're seeing it in the SMA space, and especially in cold emails. So if you want to win in the SMA space, you need to differentiate yourself. You can't be one of these drones that just sends cold email after cold email, because any 14-year-old with a laptop can do that. If you want to win, if you want to build a real business that thrives and that scales with ease, you need to do something else. And you need to leverage what I'm going to talk about in this video. So these prospects, these brands are all getting the same stuff, right? They're getting quick question first name, quick query first name. If I could give you 30 appointments a month, if I could raise your revenue by 20 to 30%, no one believes this stuff. No brand owner, no prospect is sitting there really believing this faceless person who sent them a cold email can get them X or Y result. Now, 3 years ago, fair enough. They were probably only getting one email a month or one cold email a week or something like that, right? From an agency, and they're probably going to have a lot of interest. But if everyone is promising them that these days, then they're going to be significantly less confident in what you're promising. Now, everyone is offering people to get on a call. Would you want to jump on a quick 15-minute call? Would you be against a quick discovery call? And at the end of the day, this is a massive inconvenience to these brands and these prospects. They don't really want to spend their time on a call with you based on some email. Okay, it's an inconvenience for them. And even if you get them on a call, they're so hard to close because it's an inconvenience to them. As I said, they don't really trust you. They don't know you. They haven't seen any case studies. They haven't consumed any of your content. There's something a mentor taught me, that if you want to be able to close a client with ease, then you should abide by the 7-hour rule. And the 7-hour rule is essentially where if someone has consumed 7 hours of your content, they are far more likely to buy from you. They're far more likely to do what you say, right? And that is the advantage of what I'm going to show you in this video. On a cold email, they're consuming about 3 seconds of content, i.e. reading the email. So it's going to be so much harder to close them than if they were to have consumed hours of your content, and they'd be warm and they would know about how amazing your service is, right? So marketing is hard because you're in a red ocean of agencies spamming 20 emails a day. And sales is hard because when they get on the call, they don't want to be there. They don't trust you. They haven't consumed your content. They don't know what you're capable of. And if marketing and sales is hard, well, that means growth is hard because these are the two departments that constitute growth. And if growth is hard, then running your business is going to be hard and you're not going to be able to scale. Now, outbound is a dream they sell you to make themselves rich. Outbound is a dream that is sold to you by gurus on YouTube, online, on Instagram to make themselves rich. Why? Because outbound is exciting, it's fast, it seems achievable, right? You only have to send a couple emails a day and then you'll be running a 50K a month agency. It's a really, really attractive idea that you just have to send a couple of emails and you'll build a 500K a year business, but it's just not true anymore.
Yeah, and then finally as well, to round off 2023, I got my first ever luxury watch. So it was a Tag Aqua Racer. It was about £2,000, I think £2,500 watch, so about 3 or 4K USD. Pretty big deal. Obviously now have the Rolex, but of course you've got to start somewhere, and still got that watch with me now. Very special memories.
All right.
Thank you.
So how much room have you got? Yeah. So if you wanted to sit there, I reckon another link.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if I take half a link out, you're still gonna have a bit of movement.
So now we are going into 2024, and at this point I had my first ever just shy of 50K month. I believe December of 2023 was 40K, and then January 2024 was 40K. January was better than December, I remember that. And so 40 something K. It was just like, I'm not gonna lie, I think I rounded up in this video, but at this point I saw like the whole raw reality trend that was going on, so I kind of decided to hop on it and basically make this video breaking down what it was like as a university student. And I think I just like whined about not having much of a social life, which I absolutely didn't. At this stage I had pretty much stopped going out as a student would completely, and I'd grown quite distant from my friends as well. But ultimately that's just a decision that one makes, and I'm very glad that I did. I hope we are all doing well. My name is George, and today I wanted to just sit down, film a laid-back, relaxed video discussing the raw reality of what it's like to make 50k per month as a student. I've got no fancy background behind me. I'm still working on getting that mansion. This video isn't to boast. This video isn't to brag. It's just me kind of laying out my story for you guys and sharing the most important lessons that I learned on the way to getting here. So, first things first, let's jump into my story. So I've got no sob story about, surviving poverty or abuse or anything like that. I was actually very lucky. I had a very privileged upbringing, which I'm very thankful to say. A very, very happy family life, etc., etc. But, at the same time, coming from a privileged background has its own difficulties. People have really, really solid, rigid expectations of you, your family, your friends. And, when I decided that entrepreneurship was the route for me, the traditional education system wasn't really going to cut it, etc. You've heard that story by now if you're on this side of YouTube. I got a lot of pushback. Okay, I got a lot of pushback, and a lot of people didn't want me to change, which is a big thing that you're probably going to face if you come from, a similar kind of, background. My parents weren't mega rich by any means when I was born, but I was lucky enough to go to private school, we weren't ever really struggling for money. But it did mean that when I said, hey, I don't really want to make academics and university the main focus of my life, I got a lot of pushback. And that's not me saying poor me, but it was definitely something that I had to work through, and maybe you kind of know what that's like. There's definitely some rigidity to it when you come from a family that has certain expectations of you. But the thing I realized is in life, you just have to choose your regrets, right? Like, you can do what your family want and do what your friends want and have a safe life, follow the path, go to school, go to university, get a job, get a house near your parents, never really live at your limits and never really push yourself past your boundaries. And then for the rest of your life, you'll always wonder, what if, right? What if I took more risks? What if I took that chance? What if I started that business when I was younger? You're always going to be living with regret. And then, of course, if you do what I decided to do, and take those risks, stop seeing a lot of friends, disappoint your family in certain areas. That all kind of sucks, but, I'd much rather live with that regret rather than questioning the entire path of my life, so to speak. Just choose your regrets, man. Like, everyone's going to have regrets at the end of their life. It's just a facet of a life that can only be lived, once. So everyone's going to have their regrets. So just make sure that you choose the ones that you can live with. And I know for a fact that, when I'm 85, I will always be grateful that I took the leap. Whether I'm extremely successful in business or whether I just, coast along where I am now, I don't really care. Just knowing that I was able to kind of make something work for myself and live life on my own terms was priceless, was incredibly worthwhile. So that's the first point. And then that kind of leads me nicely onto the second one, which again, you guys might be experiencing this if you're a young man. I think a lot of the people that watch my videos are young. Either they're running their agencies at the moment or they want to launch a marketing agency or an e-com brand or a dropshipping business. I'm really talking to young entrepreneurs. I mean, the whole goal of this channel is to help as many young men become and improve themselves as entrepreneurs. I think probably what you're going to face is this realization that people don't want you to change. And there's a very, very simple reason for that. I mean, there's 2 trillion years of evolution at play here. People want to preserve themselves, okay? They want to preserve themselves and they want to preserve the people around them. And so when they start to see you improve and reach levels that they've never touched before and, amass wealth, amass respect, they're going to feel threatened, right? They're going to feel threatened. They're going to feel challenged. It's just human nature. When someone's success makes you feel small, you always get that kind of that jealousy. And so friends and family, they want to kind of keep you the same. They don't want you to change. What really has to happen, unfortunately, is that you've got to move away from a lot of friends. Now, full transparency, I get on amazingly well with my family. My family life is great. But there are a lot of friends that I've had to leave behind. And, it's just a part of growing. It's just a part of going down this route. And then I also moved into my own apartment. So this was pretty cool. In third year of university, I was making 30, 40 grand a month, taking home probably like 25, 30 grand a month as well. And that allowed me to move into my own apartment at the age of 20. And it was a freaking cool place. I'll say that. It was very cool, like big floor to ceiling windows. You know, obviously it was in my university city, which is Exeter. So it's down south of the UK. So not like a tier 1 city by any means, but basically moved out of my student house, moved away from my university friends and moved into this apartment. But it was amazing. It was an amazing feeling being able to truly have a place that I could call my own. You know, up until this point, I'd either been living with my parents or then living with roommates or dorm mates or whatever. But this place was a complete apartment, 2-bedroom, fully mine. And I miss that place to this day, honestly. That was such a great time in my life. Such a beautiful summer, honestly. And this is the thing, guys. Like, dude, when you just start making like 20, 30 grand a month, especially if you're young, what a feeling. I mean, I know I'm only 23, but I feel like I'm old now compared to so many people in this space. But yeah, dude, to be 20 years old making like 20, 30 grand a month, I'll always look back on those times fondly. You know, of course, I was still stressed out my mind and still had so many issues and things like that. But I think the stakes felt a lot lower back then for me. You know, I just felt like I was early, I was young, I was in a good place for my age. Right now, I feel like I'm behind because I'm not doing like $1 million a month. You know what I mean? So anyway, not to make this all about me, but nonetheless, I guess this is my journey video. So I'm going to do a bit of that. But
ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how I make $50,000 per month while studying full-time at the age of 20. Now, I'm not here to brag or boast, and I'm most importantly not here to sell you on any kind of course. All I want to do is show you how to make money online, live a better life, and fulfill your potential. So let's jump into it. Now, do I run a real estate portfolio, a crypto firm, and an Amazon FBA scheme? No, I don't. I run one business, okay? I run a marketing agency called The Paid Search Company, and that is literally how I make my money. That's it, right? Like, there's this common myth that you've got to have 7 streams of income to become a millionaire. That's completely false, right? That's BS. The way that you become a millionaire is by getting really good at one model, one thing, and focusing all of your attention on that, right? That's why that whole 7 streams of income thing doesn't really work. You know, yeah, you know, millionaires and multimillionaires have accumulated 7 streams of income, but they got there by doing one thing. And the reason why is because of focus, right? If you're trying to focus on multiple different things, you're just not getting that far, right? Your focus is fragmented. It's not going as far as if it was channeled into just one thing. Over time, over a long enough period of time, you're gonna go way, way further. So I started this business about 1.5 years ago in the summer of 2022. And I just finished my 2nd year at university. I'm studying philosophy in the UK, down at the University of Exeter. And I was miserable. I was working a full-time job in retail. I absolutely hated it. I was desperate to find a way to make money online. I'd always kind of heard about, you know, making money online or whatever. Right, like we all have, if we're on YouTube, we've all had those ads, probably some Tai Lopez, probably some Iman Gadzi, right? And so I knew it was possible, I just didn't know how to do it. And so I went deep and I researched and I researched and I researched, and I would literally sit there on my lunch break researching ways to make money online, and I was just delusionally convinced that it was possible. And I'm so glad that I was honestly a bit delusional at that stage, because like I wouldn't have made the leap and taken the risk of starting a business if I wasn't, but I was just so desperate to make it work. Now, eventually I stumbled across the agency model, and I was lucky enough to find someone to teach me it. And eventually, after I think about 4 or 5 months of work, I signed my first client. So it took me a while to get my first client, but when I did, I was absolutely ecstatic. And then I think the week after, I signed like 2 clients in 1 week, which was awesome. And I ended up getting to 10K a month in I think about 8 or 9 months of starting, which is pretty decent. So the beauty of starting something like a marketing agency, which is a service-based business, is that there's really little risk, right? There's no upfront cost. You don't have to research a product or buy a load of inventory or buy a warehouse, or even if you're doing a model like dropshipping where you don't have to spend a bunch of money on ads, right? All you need to do is learn a service that's in demand, get really good at it, and reach out to clients who need it and do a good job of delivering it for them, right? It's really simple as that. You start as a freelancer, right? And then you transition to an agency owner when you hire a team of people. And now I have a team that does pretty much everything for me. All I do is marketing and sales, which is really awesome and really fun, and it's what I love to do. So how does my business actually work? Well, we have about 15 clients, and our average retainer for those clients is around $3,000 per month. So each of our clients pays us $3,000 a month, kind of like a Netflix subscription, to run Google and YouTube ads for them, right? So we work, as I mentioned, with e-com brands, and so we run Google and YouTube ads. We have a specific niche, which I really recommend all beginners have. You kind of niche down into excellence, right? It's a really important lesson I learned. Don't try and be a freelancer for everything. You're a freelancer for one specific problem. And if you get really good at solving one specific problem, then people start to kind of recognize you and you build a reputation, and then you get a bunch of clients, right? So it's simple, right? We have 15 clients that pay us $3K a month. That's between a 40 and 50K a month business. We're currently fluctuating between those points, right? So it's simple, but it's not easy, because you've got to get really good at something, and then you've got to get good at marketing so you can get people on the phone with you, right? This is a business where you're selling stuff face to face over the phone, so you've got to be pretty good on a camera. And then you've got to obviously make sure that, well, first of all, they buy from you on that call, right? So you've got to be good at sales, and then you've got to do a good job of delivering that service to them so that firstly they stay, but also you can kind of get a case study from them, right? And a case study is basically proof that you can do what you say you can do. And the more case studies you collect, it's kind of like coins leveling up in a video game. You level up in business and you can get better clients and more clients really, really easily.
Pretty much from there, continued to scale the agency. Had a bit of an Andrew Tate phase at a certain point, I think, and really started talking about masculinity and kind of leaning into that a little bit in my personal brand.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to talk about why comfort kills success. And very simply, not a lot of you will be able to watch this video all the way through. Why? Because it will be uncomfortable. There's no flashy edits. There's no jump cuts. There's not going to be anything that exciting, and quite frankly you're probably used to watching that stuff on TikTok, and so you're going to struggle to watch this video. However, there's going to be a select few of you who are extremely high IQ and will very, very likely be successful, who can watch this video all the way through. And if you do, then you're going to realize a simple truth that has allowed me to find at least some success in life. Now, I'm not some ultra billionaire. My name's George. I have a company that does 50K a month. I've moved into a nice apartment. I am in very, very good physical condition, and I achieved all of this by the age of 20. And I'm not trying to say that to brag. I'm just illustrating to you my credentials. I'm not just a random person online. I have actually done some of the stuff that I preach. Now, why does comfort kill success? Because when you're comfortable, you have no drive. You're signaling to your brain that you have made it, right? Like, biologically speaking, your body will believe that you have won, that you are top of the food chain. Look at history, right? When through human history have humans really ever been comfortable, right? And I'm talking, hundreds of thousands, not hundreds, but hundreds and thousands of years back, when we were literally just running from saber-toothed tigers and foraging for food. When were we ever comfortable, right? We were very, very, very rarely comfortable. And if you were comfortable, then that means that you were doing something extremely right and that you were probably top of the food chain. But in today's age, things have changed. Technology has caught up, and it's extremely easy to be comfortable. And in fact, people want you to be comfortable, right? That's the consensus of society. You should be comfortable, you should be happy, you should be joyful, you should feel pleasure every day, and everything should be fun, right? But when you're comfortable, there's no urgency, there's no drive. That animalistic instinct to change your circumstances is not there, right? But when you strip all of that back, you get rid of the comfortable things. You get rid of the junk food, you get rid of the TV, you get rid of the girlfriend, you get rid of the TikTok, then you become an animal again. Your mind realizes that you are not where you need to be, and you then start to grow and succeed. You have drive again to change your circumstances and become better and become comfortable. Because yes, the body wants to be comfortable. The body wants to have everything accessible to it, right? Food, sex, all of these things, right? And so when we strip away a lot of that,
we ignite the desire to go and get it again. And, you know, some of you, whoever's watching this, you're probably at different stages. Some of you will be watching this at $0 a month. Some of you will be watching this at 10K a month. Some of you will be watching this at 50K a month. Some of you will be further than me and watching it, 100K a month plus, whatever you're making in your business. This will still always apply to you. And it may even apply to you more so when you do become successful. Because when you start making 10, 20, 30K a month, life gets very comfortable very quickly. And this happened to me. And when I started making that kind of money, I really took my foot off the gas. I started spending a lot of money on shit food. I started to not work so much because I had everything that I wanted. I had the nice apartment. I had a girlfriend. I had basically everything that a man needs, like baseline needs. And so that animalistic drive disappeared. But eventually I realized that I wasn't getting anywhere. My business had stayed the same. In fact, it had gone down. This was around March 2024. And I very, very quickly realized that I was way too comfortable. And the time that I was growing the fastest, towards the middle and end of 2023, I was down bad. I was not comfortable. I was not happy. I was in a state of struggle, right? And I think people always want to be in a state where they're thriving. But as a man, to be struggling is to be thriving, right? Because that is how you grow.
But you can see I started to get pretty sophisticated with my agency funnel. We rebranded to the paid search company at this point because we were pretty much all in on Google Ads, and we were kind of one of the top Google Ads agencies, I would say, in the online space, posting on Twitter and YouTube.
I'm going to do something extremely stupid today. I'm going to walk you through my entire Twitter content strategy that has gotten my agency to $50,000 a month in revenue and around 30K a month in profit, okay? This sole single channel has allowed me to go from absolute zero, noob broke business owner to doing well over $500,000 in revenue per year, okay? And if you implement what I'm showing you here, this can do very much the same for you in your SMMA, coaching business, info business, whatever it is that you run. If you sell to clients, Twitter is the place to be. I promise you that. So let's jump into my board and I'm going to walk you through the strategy. So, first things first, who is this for? It's not for absolutely everybody. If you're selling to, local businesses that spend virtually zero time online, then maybe this isn't for you. But if you're selling to e-com, right? If you're selling to SaaS, if you're selling to info, if you're selling to coaches, if you're selling to, anyone who is relatively online and sophisticated, I would say yes. If you're selling to local businesses, maybe go look elsewhere. Facebook, LinkedIn, probably better. But if you're selling to, agencies, for example, any of these, niches that are relatively clued in, they understand marketing, they're going to be on Twitter, right? I guarantee you that. So these are just a couple of examples, but let's jump into things. So first things first, let's start with the profile, right? I have two profiles. I have my personal brand and I have my company one. You do not need two profiles. In fact, you should definitely not have two profiles. This is purely just because we've gotten to a certain level and it makes sense for me to have this because firstly, it's going to mean more eyeballs, and secondly, it looks a little bit more professional, and thirdly, it also increases enterprise value, right? If you have company social media profiles, then it's going to be a bit easier to sell your company, right? Because if you just have your personal brand, we can't really sell that, but you can sell this. Now, a lot of these images are a little bit out of date. There's many more than 3 posts on this account now, and I also have, I think, like 13.7K now, and this is a different link. This links to the newsletter, which I'm going to show you in a second. But other than that, let's jump into it. So from the profile, a couple of things are going to happen, right? We have content that's coming out and we have the profile itself. These are the two conversion mechanisms. So content and then your profile, specifically your bio, okay? Let's start with this. So first of all, when we say content, what do I mean? Well, we're posting 4 times a day right now, and you don't have to post 4 times a day. In fact, I would recommend you probably start with something like 2 times a day. But that's kind of how you need to think about Twitter. It's like posts per day, right? Just as YouTube is kind of more like posts per week. Twitter, there's a lot more volume going on than anywhere else because the content is so short form, right? It takes 5 seconds to read a tweet that you can produce a lot of it. It doesn't take as long to make, etc., etc.
Now, I'm going to break down the kind of type of content that I make in a second over here. But let's look at the bio. So the bio is going to be a link to a newsletter. 9 times out of 10, for us, that's a lead magnet, which opts them into the newsletter, which sends them to a VSL page here. Now, why is this important? Well, it's very simple. Only 1% of the market is ever ready to actually buy your, 2 to, 4K a month retainer, because that's obviously a pretty big purchase. But out of your prospects, maybe, 33% would opt in for a lead magnet, and an email list, right? So even though they're not ready to buy now, that means you've captured their email data for later. This is so important because on Twitter, you're gathering a huge amount of impressions. This post got 85K here, this post got 2K, this post got 2K, like this post got 11K. These are a lot of eyeballs, and a lot of eyeballs means that you're going to get a lot of profile visits. And if your only link on your profile is just, hey, buy my thing for 3K a month, you're not going to get much back from all of those eyeballs. But if your main link is, hey, subscribe to this newsletter and get a free lead magnet, you're going to get a lot more for those eyeballs, if that makes sense. So I wish I did this sooner, and I absolutely recommend that you do this immediately. Obviously when they sign up, again, they're going to get taken to a VSL, a VSL page. Again, probably only 1% is going to convert into a booked call, which is how we make money. We book calls, we sell people on calls for 2 to 4K a month retainers.
Ladies and gentlemen, how are we doing today? I'm going to give you as much of my knowledge about SMMA, pretty much all of it that I've gathered in the last 2 years of running my agency, the Paid Search Company, in as many minutes as this video takes to film. I've scaled my agency to around $50,000 per month consistently. We've been at that run rate pretty much year to date, and it's taken me just under 2 years to get there. So in this video, I'm going to give you all of the things that I've learned along the way, how I chose my niche, what service I run and recommend, what offer I use, what marketing I use and recommend, what sales strategies I use, operations, hiring, the whole lot, okay? I'm going to try and make this video relatively short and sweet, hopefully around the 20-minute mark, but we'll see how we go. I'm in my new office space at the moment. Started to take the life slightly more seriously since we've scaled up. So that's why the background is the way it is. And I have a nice little whiteboard over here as well. So I'm going to start drawing on here, and hopefully you will get the picture. So let's go for it. So let's start with your niche. You can't do anything in SMMA if you don't know who you're selling to. So deciding your niche is the first step that you need to take, okay? Because you need to know who you're selling to before you decide what you're going to sell them. So let's start with your niche, however you want to pronounce it. I don't really care. So there we go. So I run an agency in the e-commerce niche, which is one of the most saturated and competitive niches. Now, what do I recommend you to do? If you're a beginner watching this, or if you want to start a new agency, you need to understand the difference between sophisticated and unsophisticated buyers, right? This is a very, very important distinction to get your head around. Now, what do I mean when I say a sophisticated buyer? A sophisticated buyer is very simply a buyer who is smart. They understand marketing, they understand sales tactics, they run a online intelligent digital business. I'm not saying local or offline businesses are unintelligent, absolutely the opposite. They often make more money, but what I'm saying is e-commerce owners, SaaS businesses, who else? Information businesses, coaches, even agencies. All of these groups of people are very switched on to marketing tactics, and they will call you out on their BS, on your BS, right? So as a beginner trying to go to 7-figure, 8-figure e-commerce brands, selling your services is going to be impossible, right? It is going to be so difficult. Whereas what I mean by unsophisticated buyers are businesses, typically offline local businesses that do not understand marketing very well. They don't understand the need or how Facebook ads or Google ads or YouTube ads work. They do not understand how SEO works, all of these things that sophisticated buyers have a very, very good grasp on. So the reason why it's easier to sell to unsophisticated buyers is because they have less knowledge around your service, and they're typically going to be smaller businesses as well, okay? So it's just very, very crucial. And I recommend this to everyone who comes to me and asks, like, what niche should I get in? The more obscure, the better, right? Obscure equals best, all right? Now, I know this probably hurts you because, like me,
when I began, I was like, oh, I've got to get into e-commerce. It's cool. It's exciting. I want to run a fun, awesome business. The more boring your business, the better. That's what I've realized over the years. And don't try and fall in love with your work. You don't need to follow your passion. An agency is just a stepping stone, all right? In my opinion, an agency is a great way to get to 7 figures, and it's a great way to get some cash flow in the door, but it doesn't have to get you any further than that, okay? So drop your pride and go for obscure. Do your research, talk to other agency owners, see where people are succeeding, and go for those niches. Niches like firearms, niches like pool installation, niches like interior design, really obscure niches where the market is first of all unsaturated, so that the reason why that is good is because your marketing is going to be more effective because there is lower supply and higher demand. Whereas in niches like mine, e-commerce, supply is huge. My prospects get hammered with 20 cold emails every single day with the same offer, the same pitch, right? Whereas your prospects, if you go to a more obscure niche, they're not going to receive that. So your marketing is just going to be more effective. It's going to be easier to get on calls with these people. And when you start explaining your service, which we'll get onto in a second, they are going to be, quite frankly, impressed because they just do not understand it, right? And another reason as well is usually when you're advertising to these obscure businesses, the services you're pitching are a nice add-on to what they're doing. Typically, they're going to get sales via foot traffic or referrals or whatever. But with sophisticated businesses like SaaS and e-com companies, paid ads, they literally rely on paid ads. So for you to come in and pitch them paid ads, you have to have the best social proof, the best case studies, the best referrals, the best references, all things that you do not have as a beginner. So drop your pride and go for obscure niches. This is what will get you to 100K a month super fast, okay? Awesome. So that's the niche thing, all right? I've just given you a couple of examples as well, but if I give you concrete examples, then loads of people will go and start doing them. So I don't want to do that. So that's the first thing, that's the niche.
And then we kind of had a big gap. So I sort of started to lack on my posting going into the last third of 2024, because at this point I was moving to London, which is where I still live to this day. And there was just a lot going on there. So I moved into London, kind of stopped posting on this channel because I kind of got the overwhelming advice that I should just focus everything on my agency and I should just stop doing this personal brand thing because ultimately it's not going to help me grow my agency. And that was ultimately the kind of narrative that led me to destroying and deleting the channel, which I do regret, but hopefully I can revive some of the memories of it in this video. But anyway, so stopped posting on that channel and then basically started running ads kind of in Q4 of 2024. And then that's when we basically just took off. So we were basically doing, as I said, 40 to 50K a month, pretty much all throughout 2024, kind of organically did tick up to like an 80K a month in November, but that was just because it was Black Friday. So I don't really count that. So pretty much doing about 50K a month and then switched ads on officially in December and went from 50 to 150K a month in 3 months. So we 3X'd the agency, 155K technically in January. And at that point, I went on a holiday or a trip to Dubai in February. And then I made, I think ended up being one of the final videos on that channel, which is basically me breaking down the lessons that I learned scaling to 150K.
Hey, so I'm the CEO and founder of an agency that did $150,000 in revenue last month. My name is George, and don't worry, I'm not here to sell you a course or a mastermind or a mentorship, and you have my word that I never will. My sole purpose of filming these videos and creating this new series on YouTube, which I'm building here, is to document my journey of getting my agency to 8 figures. Now, you can see in the past on this channel that I started my YouTube journey when I was doing under 10K a month with my agency. I was just getting into business, and now we've over 10X since that point. So my plan is to really just continue this journey. And all I'm here to achieve is to attract the best talent in the world to come and work for us. Because if we want to get to the next level, we need amazing people. So that's the reason why I'm filming these videos. I feel like it's always important to announce that because there's so many sort of fake gurus on YouTube these days. So that's that out of the way. Now, I've been traveling for the last few months. I was in Cape Town last month. I'm in Dubai right now, and it's given me a lot of chance to reflect on the lessons that I've learned from going, where I was in my first video on this channel at sort of 10, 20K a month all the way to, just doing 150K. What are the 3 biggest lessons that I've learned that I would tell myself back when I was just getting started? So lesson number 1 is that you need to do one thing for 3 years. Now, I assume you watching this, you are either running a business or you want to start a business. That is my audience. And so, why am I telling you to do one thing for 3 years? Well, it's because you need to pay off ignorance debt. Now, as harsh as that sounds, what that basically means is that if you knew how to make $1 million a year or $10 million a year, you would be making that, or you would be well on your way there, right? And So if you're not, then there's simply just a knowledge gap, right? It's costing you $1 million, or it's costing you $10 million or $100 million a year, not knowing how to make that kind of money, right? And these lessons are not learned in 3 months or 2 months, right? It's kind of ironic how people go to university and do a 3 or 4 year degree, but they won't even stick to a business model for 3 or 4 months. I don't see how it's any different. You're learning core lessons in a specific academic discipline, and so too are you learning core lessons in business, which is just as equal of a pursuit, right? So, of course, it's going to take time to learn these lessons. And furthermore, business is exponential. It's one of those things in life where you get like 80% of the results in 20% of the time, and from 20% of the actions that you do. I mean, for example, in the last 3 months, I've experienced literally all of my growth, okay? 3 months ago, I think we had around a 60K month, and last month we did 150K. So we nearly doubled in the last 3 months. But I've been running this agency for 2.5 years. I started in June, technically, of 2022. It's just gone 2025. So I've been at this for 2.5 years, guys. Like, it's a fair amount of time. There's so many gurus online and people on Instagram that will tell you you can succeed overnight. I've seen one specific guy saying that it should take you 3 months to get to a 6-figure business. All right, screw them. Okay, yes, you should try and achieve quickly, because money loves speed, 100%. But don't give up on yourself just because you don't get to that point in 3 months, or don't give up on the vehicle that you're in just because you don't hit that point in 3 months. What's important is that you pick a vehicle that suits you, that you can just hack away at again and again, month after month, week after week, year after year. I knew as soon as I started my agency that this was the business model for me. I tried e-commerce in the past. That's my background. That's why I run an e-commerce agency, because I was building Shopify stores and launching dropshipping stores. I saw a bit of success there. I made a couple $1,000s maybe, but every time a store failed, I was set straight back to zero because I spent all my money on ads, and I just felt like it wasn't sustainable. But with an agency, with a service-based business, all that you have is your time, right? And that's why I think it's the best business from beginners to start, right? Again, not selling you a course, just giving you my advice, because you have so much time as a beginner. That's really the only asset that you have when you're getting started, because you don't have capital, you don't have network, you don't have leverage, but you have time. It's on the flip side now for when you get to 7 figures and 8 figures, because then you really don't have any time and you have to really leverage those other things that I just mentioned. So, with an agency, you can just keep hacking away, and that's exactly what I did. It took me over a year to hit my first $10,000 month. All right, as I said, I started in June 2022. I think it was June or July of 2023. I'll throw it up on the screen, where we had our first $11,000 month. A year. All right, a calendar year, okay? So people are saying you should get there in 1 month, in 3 months. It took me a year, all right? And I'm lucky because I started early I started my agency at 19 years old. I'm 21 now. So I was able to basically see no results for a year. But I imagine a lot of you watching this are probably quite young. And so, if you're 18, 19, 20, 21, 23, you have so much time to stick at something. Okay, for 2-3 years. The only way you guarantee you fail is if you quit.
And then, yeah, pretty much after that point, just got super busy with the agency. I mean, running a 150K a month agency is definitely no joke. It's a pretty serious business. At that point, we had 20 or 30 staff members, give or take. I mean, we, were adding service lines constantly. And so, I just was kind of all in on the agency and pretty much didn't have the time for any sort of personal brand stuff. And, couldn't really see a world where I was going to end up, making use of that channel, which obviously we all know now I probably would have. But anyway, and then basically made the decision to delete it and just go all in on the agency for the rest of the year. Here we are, coming crawling back with a new personal brand channel in 2026. Interesting journey. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Something a little bit different. Hopefully you guys let me know if you resonate with the journey at all. Do you ever want to just chat and let me know how your kind of agency journey is going? You can just DM me on Instagram. My DMs are always open. And I guess to round things off, what am I trying to do this year? Well, the agency is still running. I still run it to this day. I'm still growing it exclusively with ads. I'm also coaching other agency owners now on how to grow and scale their own agencies with the same methods that we use. That's the advertising co. And honestly, the coaching has become one of the most fulfilling things for me to do. You can look on this channel at all the case study videos we've already gotten, changing people's lives. I like to think taking them from 25K to 50K a month, 0 to 10K a month, 50 to 100K a month, whatever it is. And so that's definitely going to be obviously a big focus of mine in 2026, is trying to help more people scale. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did and you want my personal help in growing your agency, just DM me on Instagram. It's the first link in the description. Other than that, I will see you in the next video. Peace.